Hello, everyone. You're listening to the last edition of Upon Further Review for this fall semester. Sean Martin here with you up until the 7 o'clock hour right here on 90.3 FM and WMSCRadio.com, on Twitter at UFR WMSC. It's been a great semester of the show so far, and we have a great show planned for you to close things out. We have Mario Papa and Nick Stellini with us in studios. We're going to be starting out with some baseballs. We finally have some significant baseball stuff to talk about. I know we've kind of sprinkled it in the past few weeks, a few mentions here and there. We went into the David Price deal for maybe 10, 15 minutes or so. We talked a few weeks ago just about kind of a preview of the offseason for both the local teams, the Yankees and the Mets. But finally, we have some bona fide actual baseball news to talk about, and a lot of it at that. So we are going to start with that stuff in just a few minutes, and we're going to get into some NFL football, of course, later on. We'll have our picks. I'll give you my surprise teams in Week 13. You have the Heisman Trophy vote for college football tomorrow on ESPN, so we're going to talk about that a little bit near the end of the show. We'll throw that stuff in along with some Red Hawks athletics if we have time for that as well. We'll see what we can get to in the later portions of the show, because obviously a lot of baseball to get to along with the football that we always do with the surprise teams, the picks, and any other storylines. You'll get it here from InsideTheStore.com contributor Jess Haney at about 5:30, so we'll talk some NFC East stuff with him, get his thoughts on the Giants. Cowboys, of course, the main focus of that as they travel to Green Bay now at 4-8, just a game behind first place in that crazy and at the same time incredibly awful division. So yeah, a lot to do. Last show of the semester, as I said, we'll be back in the spring. Not sure of the time yet, but I'll have that up on the Twitter once you find out. So you have to stay posted for updates on that. Of course, if you haven't called in yet and you've been listening all semester, now's the best time to call, 973-655-4256 if you want to hop on board, or you can send us a tweet to that UFR WMSC account. All right, let's not waste any more time with this intro here, because like I said numerous times now, we have a lot to talk about. And let's start with the New York Yankees, because they made some big moves. Nick Stellini obviously still with us here in studio, a big Yankees fan, as we're going to get into all these baseball moves with him, and we'll hear from you guys as well on it. So the first move they made, they acquired Starlin Castro from the Cubs, and really stole him from the Cubs might be the best term to use, because they only give up Adam Warren, a guy who you can live with, losing obviously, and Brendan Ryan. The LEDs aren't working, so
okay.
Your mic is actually
okay. A little bit of concern there.
If you mash the button enough, it'll turn on. Now I found it on. Last night.
So yeah, Castro and Warren. The Yankees definitely needed a regular second baseman. As things stood, it was going to be a platoon of Rob Refsnyder and Dustin Ackley at second base, and that could have been okay, but there was really no plan B if that was going to be the thing. I mean, they signed Pete Cosmo to a minor league deal, and he can defend the middle infield, but he doesn't hit. And theoretically, they could have gotten out and got another bench player or something, but you don't want to roll into the season with Refsnyder and Ackley necessarily, because if that goes south, there is no real other thing you can do.
Right.
So Castro is young. He's got a lot of upside. He's on a very team-friendly contract. And I don't think it was much of a steal as you do, Sean. I'm a big Adam Warren fan. I think he's very quietly a very good pitcher. He's a valuable swingman, probably one of the best in the league. The Cubs do view him as a starter, but he's probably going to go into the season as a reliever. I think he could find sustained success out of the rotation if he ever did go that route. But he's also very good in short bursts out of the bullpen. He can go multiple innings. He's a good pitcher. And they get 3 very cheap, controllable years of Adam Warren in that deal. But in the end, I do like the deal for the Yankees. I really do like Starlin Castro. I think that's a huge get for the Yankees. I don't think he's going to be a superstar like many people once thought he was going to be, but
he'll be very good.
He'll be pretty good, yeah. So I love that move.
Yeah, and you mentioned Adam Warren, definitely a guy that, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy having him here, and I do think he gives you a good element to wherever you're going to put him, either in the starting rotation or in the bullpen. He gives you good pitching depth wherever you're going to use him, and a pretty solid guy that you know what you're going to get out of. But you look at where this Yankees infield was a few years ago with pretty much all-stars across the board. You had Alex Rodriguez at third base, Derek Jeter at shortstop, Robertson Cano at second base, and Mark Teixeira at first base. To pretty much not have that intact anymore, and to rebuild it to now, in a short period of time, you now have Chase Headley, Didi Gregorius, Starlin Castro, and Mark Teixeira and Greg Bird.
If he stays healthy to share. That's my
that's
concern.
why I mentioned Greg Bird, a player who I absolutely love, and I'm sure Nick is a fan of as well. You rebuild the infield to that in a short amount of time. I think it's a great job by Cashman to address the infield and not, he didn't really rush to make any of these moves. He didn't say, he didn't panic and say, this is what we need to do. He just quietly brought in players that he thought could succeed here. Athletic, two-way players, guys that are going to give you something with the glove and also hit and contribute and help you out overall as a club. And now this new Yankees infield should be a bright spot of this team.
And more importantly, I think it's part of a concerted effort to get the team younger.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Starlin Castro is a young guy. He's 25. He's going to be 26 around opening day. Didi Gregorius is going to be 26 around opening day. Aaron Hicks, who they brought in the John Ryan Murphy trade, is 26. Greg Bird's 23 or 24, I believe. Luis Severino is going to be 22.
Gotta love Severino.
And so, Gary Sanchez is probably going to come up at some point very soon. Aaron Judge is waiting in the wings. This team is getting younger. And having that middle infield intact, and they're going to age together, and they're going to be there for a while, I think that's very important. Because it is hard to go out into free agency and even the trade market in a way to go out and get established middle infielders. Because if they're good, teams lock middle infielders up, or they let them go to free agency and they sign for a lot of money. The Teixeira money is coming off the books after this season.
Good.
But the A-Rod contract's still going to be there. Sabathia contract's still going to be there probably.
Sabathia contract.
Barring some sort of very, very deft trade, the Ellsbury contract is going to be there. So they don't have all the money to play with next winter, but getting this group together right now of Castro and Gregorius in the middle infield is huge. I really, really like where they're going.
Yeah, and Gregorius, a player that, think back to where he was at the start of this last season, everybody wanted to run him out of town. And,
remember that.
You mentioned the Yankees getting younger. What comes with that is fans going to have to realize that as we get younger and younger, the players that you bring in are going to have to go through a bit of a learning curve, especially in the New York market. They have to learn how to play in front of, play with these expectations.
But I don't think you really have that with Castro. He's
been
in the league.
Castro, no.
He's been in the league since 2010, and Chicago's not exactly the friendliest media market in the world.
Absolutely. So, as this team gets younger, they have players that can go for some growing pains, but now Gregorius is a player that absolutely caught on fire for a good part of the late second half of the season, and now he gets paired up with a guy like Castro, who's equally as young, might not have the same growing pains. At least we don't expect him to. I agree. A career 281 hitter with 62 home runs, is really going to help this Yankees team. And I think an element that he adds to this team as well is he really gives you some, versatility for Joe Girardi in this lineup. You can really move things around. Brett Gardner's a player whose name has been thrown around a lot here, and if he's going to be traded or if he's going to be here.
Don't think he's going to be traded.
It's looking more and more like he's going to be here.
I wouldn't be so quick to say that. You're not going to get, because what Cashman's saying is he wants to get a young, controllable starter on the team. He wants to get somebody with between 0 and 3 years of service time. You're not going to get that for Brett Gardner. Not anybody good, but I could definitely see Gardner as part of a package to go get somebody like that. I think that with the addition of Hicks, Gardner's a little bit more expendable because Hicks can play left and he can play any outfield position. He's probably the best outfield defender of the team right now.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see him.
We'll see if the uptick that his bat took last season, we'll see if that sustains itself or not. But either way, you can make Gardner a little bit more expendable with Hicks and then Judge coming up soon too. So I wouldn't be shocked if Gardner gets moved. I don't think that's impending and it's about to happen right now, but I wouldn't be shocked. There's a lot of winter left.
Yeah, you can't be shocked by anything that Brian Cashman's going to do because he came out and said right at the start that he's quote open to anything and he was going to pursue trades more so than free agency. And usually it takes one trade to kind of get the ball rolling. And we have multiple trades that went down over these past couple of days, not just with the Yankees, not just with the Mets, but all over the league that have gotten the ball rolling with these trades and have gotten Brian Cashman and the Yankees active. But assuming that Gardner is with this team next year, and if he has a stretch where he's struggling and he seems to always just go into those cold funks. He's a really streaky hitter. If he is a stretch where he's completely struggling, you could, move him. Think about moving him down in the lineup, moving a guy like Castro up. I
don't think Castro's going to lead off.
He won't lead off, but he could be.
Ellsbury will probably lead off.
Yeah, he'll be second or third or so, possibly. Maybe not third, but you have some flexibility in this lineup, depending on what happens, and that's what Joe Girardi wants. You're a young team with a lot of flexibility. You trust the guy with Girardi to make the right moves for the most part. And, it's a formula for success, hopefully, for next season's Yankees.
Indeed. And if Brett Gardner does struggle, as you say, there's always a trade deadline if his contract does run up. Also, if he does stay, I think him and Ellsbury would make a good combination for the leadoff hitters because they have that experience as a leadoff hitter. They have the speed for it. They definitely could steal bases early in the game.
They were
when
both
they
on
need the
fire to
runs.
start last season.
Absolutely. So I think Yankees shouldn't trade him, but like Nick said, I won't be surprised if they do trade him because he's a very good part of this team. He's a good leadoff hitter, and I feel that they shouldn't trade him at all because of his leadoff abilities and what he could do around the bases, and also in the defensively too. He's a good hitter also, and he's a good defensive player too. So the Yankees will think about it, but we'll just see what happens.
I mean, I love Brett Gardner as much as the next guy, but I don't think he's that. I don't think it's that dire that you keep him. I mean, like I said, Hicks makes him more expendable, and not for nothing, the speedy center fielder, not necessarily center fielder, but the speedy slap hitting guys like Gardner are kind of a dime a dozen. Gardner's on the good side of that spectrum. Don't get me wrong.
And there's plenty of bad.
Yeah, but I mean, somebody needs a center fielder, right? Teams always are looking for center fielders, and Gardner can play a good center field. And especially if you can make part of a package for a pitcher, I think the Yankees need more pitching right now than anything else because their rotation's kind of as good as some of the pitchers in their rotation are. They're kind of held together with chewing gum and rubber bands right now.
Right.
Because any one of them could get hurt, and I wouldn't be shocked. And then the bullpen's also depleted right now because they just traded Justin Wilson and Adam Warren. So they need relievers. I could see Gardner going part of the package for a good reliever easily.
Wouldn't be opposed to that.
No, not at all. I mean, somebody like Keone Kela, I wrote about this this morning. Keone Kela from the Rangers. I mean, they're starting to shop him and Sean Tolleson apparently, who was closing for them last year. And he's been in the league for 1 year. So he's got a lot of time left on it before he hits free agency, and he strikes out everybody. I really would be really happy if they went out and got somebody like him, not necessarily
I
him.
wouldn't be opposed to having a guy that strikes out everybody on the Yankees.
I mean, they've already got quite a few of those guys, but the problem is
Exactly.
they walk people too.
Yeah.
So I was on the David Price bandwagon for a while before he signed with Boston.
I wasn't.
I mean, he's, as we saw, incredibly expensive, but they need innings. They just need raw innings more than anything else. They need innings out of the rotation so that they don't burn the bullpen again. We saw Chasen Shreve go up in flames at the end of the year because he'd been used much.
I think what they're trying to do, that's a good segue to the second move that we need to talk about with the Yankees that you brought up briefly in trading Justin Wilson for, they get two guys that you'll have to tell me more about because I don't know a ton about these pitching prospects, in Luis Cessa and Chad Green.
Cessa was actually in the deal that sent that netted the Mets Cespedes. He went with Michael Fulmer to Detroit. I mean, Fulmer was the main guy in that deal for Cespedes, but he was in the deal with Fulmer to Detroit. Chad Green, I don't know as much about. Cessa's definitely the better prospect. He's not a world-beating blue-chip prospect, but he's a nice guy. They both had some ugly numbers in the minor leagues last year, nothing bad, but their ERAs were bad. But if their underlying metrics are pretty good, and it just looks like they were playing in front of some bad defenses. I didn't see Cessa at all this summer before the trade. I missed him both times that those AA teams were in Trenton when I was down there. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen him, but they both throw hard. They both have strikeout capabilities, and they're not going to be top-line starters, but they can either be good mid-back rotation starters or they can be relievers. And we know the Yankees are very good at developing relievers.
Absolutely. And
they've got a clown car full of relievers that goes up and down between Scranton. So we know they're good at developing relievers.
You could take a clown car in that distance from Scranton to the Bronx. It's not all that far, so you could comfortably stay in a clown car for that length of time. But to get to this Yankee bullpen, it has to be concerning, at least for some fans, because you look at what the strength of this last year's team was, and it was undoubtedly the bullpen. And now you start tinkering with pieces in there, and you lose two pieces in Warren and Wilson. And now, you're starting to say as a Yankees fan, at least at surface value, before we really dive into these things, wait a second, what's going on here? Why are we turning over so much in the bullpen? Is this still going to be the strength of our team? What's happening, in a sense, might be what some fans are saying.
I mean, I don't mind dealing from a position of depth because that was their deepest part of the roster, not just in the major leagues, but through the whole system was relievers. They still have Andrew Miller. They still have Dylan Betances. So the backbone of the bullpen is there. If you get to the eighth inning with a lead, you're probably going to win still.
Yes. It's about making that bridge to, it was the bridge to Mariano. Now it's the bridge to Betances and Miller.
And that's my thing. The bridge isn't there anymore. And as we saw last season, the starting rotation had a capacity to go out of the game pretty early, so the bullpen had to take up a lot of the work. And that's why I think having good mid-relief options are just as important as having the back of the bullpen.
Undoubtedly, yeah.
It is very early still. It's still December. There's a lot of trading and signing left to do. The free agent market for relievers is kind of depleted right now is the thing because the free agent market for relievers sucked this year.
Right.
It was Darren O'Day and a couple other guys, and they've all signed already. I mean, the best options out there are like Tyler Clippard and Joe Blanton, who found a lot of success last year as a reliever.
Like you said in the article, Joe Blanton with the Yankees, not the time to realize that he gives up home runs.
Yeah, because when he was a starter recently, he was giving up a lot of home runs, and then the Pirates turned him into the Pirates and Royals turned him into a reliever last year, and he got good. But I mean, the guys in the front office know a lot more than me. They're a lot better at player evaluation than me because I didn't watch a whole lot of Joe Blanton last year because I wasn't watching a whole lot of Pirates games and Royals games. The underlying metrics say that it's legit. But at the same time, pitching is weird, and it can go backwards very quickly. If the Yankees front office has evaluated that Blanton is legit now as a reliever, then go ahead and get him. But, yeah, I mean, there isn't a whole lot left out there. The good thing is that Jacob Lindgren's going to be healthy. He's healed from that surgery that we took the bone chips out of his elbow. And when he was a prospect, I mean, he got to AAA right out of the draft. He's very, very good. He was up for like a minute or two. And when he's healthy, he strikes everybody out. So that could be your new Justin Wilson guy in the seventh inning. Brian Mitchell was pretty good out of the bullpen before he got hit in the head with a line drive.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
I was at that game. It was terrifying. So if Mitchell can go back Mitchell might actually step into the Adam Warren role of going in and out of the rotation, being really good in short bursts before stretching him out and if he has to do a spot start. So Mitchell could step into that role. And we saw good things from guys like Nick Rumbelow, Nick Goody, James Pazos, all those guys who were going up and down.
All kinds of guys. I just seem to be able to patch in.
They have a lot of relievers. I would just like to see a bit more established talent in the bullpen before we turn it over to all those guys.
Yeah, you definitely can see the case for that. All right, we're gonna take our first break. We'll talk more about the Yankees bullpen and some more stuff with the Yankees when we come back, and then we still got to get into the Mets and then some other general moves that we had around the MLB. You even had the news today about Jason Hayward, so we're going to get to that potentially as well. So still a lot to do with baseball, but we're not even done with the Yankees yet, which we opened the show with, so a lot to do, and we'll be right back. All right, back here on a Pond Photo Review, 420, the number to call, 973-655-4256, and we do have a caller that wants to get on that line right now. It is Ron from Jersey City. Ron, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? And the nature of baseball game right now, how everyone's getting so much money, like Price and Greinke and guys like that. But why is a guy like Jason Hayward, who had one good year, which was last year in his career when he hit in the 280, 290 range, I don't know how that qualifies to get an 8-year deal worth like $180 million. I think that's a bit ridiculous.
We'll let Nick take this one.
9 years in Atlanta, he got like a 260 period. After 1 year, he gets like $180 million. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, Ron, here's the thing about Jason Hayward is that there's a number of things. One is he's so young; he's only 26 right now, so he theoretically still hasn't hit his prime. So it's not like most free agents where you're paying for a couple of good years and then they start declining. With Jason Hayward, you're still getting his prime years of production. Jason Hayward's also possibly the best outfield defender this side of Kevin Kiermaier. I mean, he can play center field, and he's good in center field, but he's absolutely, possibly the best right field defender in the whole game. So there's a lot of value in defense. I mean, if you look at a metric like wins above replacement, among active players, he has accumulated the fourth most WAR out of all active players from the time they break into league to age 25. The only guys above him are Alex Rodriguez, Mike Trout, and Albert Pujols. So that's how good he is. He's also an above-average hitter for his whole career. If you look at his whole career, he's about 20 points above league average. So you're getting premium defense. Right now he hits about 15 home runs a year or so, but he's moving into a tiny park like Wrigley because he spent the entire career in pitchers' parks. Like
he'll hit some out in Wrigley.
Like Atlanta is a pitcher's park, and then he was in St. Louis, which is a pitcher's park. So the balls die on the track there. He's moving to Wrigley, which is really tiny. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Jason Hayward hit 20 home runs this year, and every year he's in a Cubs uniform. So when you look at the whole package, he's excellent.
I think he's a good player, but I just think he had one good year last year, like a breakout year. But is he really? I mean, there's a difference between paying a guy maybe like 6 years, $90 million or $100 million, to like 8 years and $180. I mean, that's just, to me, I think that's a little bit shocking.
Well, the Cubs are definitely in win now mode though, so I don't think they're necessarily too concerned about the semantics of certain contracts that they take on. The truth is, if they get one World Series of Jason Hayward during this contract, it's the greatest thing they've ever done, because it's a World Series for the Cubs, and that hasn't happened in a zillion years.
And he mentioned his batting average as the reason that he broke out, and he did hit a career high in batting average last year with 292. But even before that, when he was hitting 270, 260 in Atlanta, he was still getting on base at like a 340, 350 clip. And he's a career 353 OBP guy. So he's going to be at the top of the lineup getting on base for the big guys like Rizzo and Bryant and Schwarber. And, I mean, he has hit home runs in the past. He had 27 in 2012, and then it kind of went back down after that. So the power is there. And like I said, he's not really hit his peak yet, theoretically. He's only 26.
And he's a guy that you don't want to rely on to have to carry your team. If he's your best player, you're probably not in great shape.
Well, I mean, if he's your best offensive player, you're not in great shape. Oh, his overall value, I mean, you can get away with Jason Hayward being your best player. He's an excellent player because of his defense, but you don't want him to be your best offensive player.
Right, but now you put him on a team like the Cubs where they just seem to be loaded at every position, and this would be a great fit, and he's just going to fit in perfectly, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, he can play center field if they decide to keep Soler, if they trade Soler and they stick Baez in center, because Baez has been learning the outfield in the minor leagues. He's playing center field in the Puerto Rican Winter League right now. So you could theoretically stick Javi Baez out in center field, trade Jorge Soler for a pitcher, have Hayward in right field where he's at his best, and you're going crazy.
That would be a very good outfield there in Wrigley Field. It's going to be hard pressed for people not to pick the Cubs to be your favorite going into this next MLB season.
Just like the Nationals have always been the favorite, and like how the Padres are supposed to win the World Series. I mean, let's not anoint them yet. Let's not anoint them yet.
For the record, I was nowhere near that Padres bandwagon. I stayed far away. I was
the Nationals have been supposed to win the World Series for the past 3 years. Yeah, the Nationals are an excellent team. They're an excellent team. But winning the offseason and having the best roster on paper at the start of the year is not at the World Series.
Oh, absolutely. No. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about with the Yankees, and specifically at our bullpen, which again was a strength of last year's team. And we said kind of before the break that at surface value, some fans, before they really dissect this, which is what we're going to do now, might be saying, wait a second, why mess with a good thing? Why are we moving Wilson and Warren and doing stuff that, might not make our bullpen what it was last year? But I think what they're trying to do is, it's a fundamental, cliche or whatever you want to call it, that obviously if you have great starting pitching that doesn't get deep into games, it's no use to not have guys in the bullpen that are going to be on the mound late in the games. If pitching is so important to this game, which obviously it is, you need good pitching out there at the end of the game. MLB baseball games are for the most part won in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. So unless you plan on having your starters out there in those innings, which sometimes you will, but for this Yankees rotation, a lot of times they might not. You better have good guys out there, or else you're going to be wasting good starts, and you're going to be losing games late. And I think what they're trying to do is add guys that can give them more than one inning. You look at Wilson and his appearances last year; he only made one appearance in which he pitched more than 2 full innings. So
and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, there are some guys who got there and they give you everything they've got for an inning, and that's fine.
You can have a few of those guys, but I think overall, with I think the theme for this Yankees bullpen of what they're trying to do is get guys that are versatile. Let's get a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things, and if we need them for an inning, fine. But if we need them for 3 innings, we can also do that. Or if we need them for just this one out, we could do that. Let's get a bunch of versatile guys. They would have
kept Adam Warren
and figure out how to use them or how their roles change throughout the season. Which they did have a Warren, you're right, but they have other guys that can probably fill that spot. Rumbelow, you mentioned, I think could be good. Pazos.
Yeah, I mean, Mitchell is a starter by trade, so he can go multiple innings. I also wouldn't be surprised to see somebody like Brady Lale up in the bullpen at some point as a long man. But I don't think necessarily that having everybody be able to go multiple innings is the key. That's not. I think you gotta have to go starting pitching, and that's why he's trying. That's why he's trying to add that other starting pitcher. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we know Betances can give you a couple innings, and I don't want to have to run him out there for multiple innings like we did this year because
it was like every single night.
He got burnt out. He got burnt out at the end of the year. Yeah, you could see he was not hitting his spots at all.
Nope.
And he was still striking guys out, which was impressive. But
yeah.
I mean, people just flat out missed.
Tired Dylan Betances is probably better than 50% of the relievers in the league.
That's scary.
But Yeah, I mean, I think that Mitchell's going to be back there, be able to do multiple innings. And I'm not. I don't think that that's the most dire thing, because if that's a dire thing, you're getting Chris Capuano back.
Oh boy.
And that's just not happening. And if that was the case, they would have gone after somebody like Yusmeira Petit, who just signed with the Nationals. But I think what Brian Cashman does to address the starting rotation is the most important thing.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have some concern for this Yankee bullpen going forward.
I do, as currently constructed right now. This is not what the bullpen is going to be on opening day. No. There's no way. They will do something to get another reliever or two in there. And like I said, Jacob Lindgren is probably going to be a pretty dang good reliever this year. So I'm kind of penciling him in already. And there are some other guys down there that are pretty good. So I'm not overly concerned, but at the same time, I would just like to see a bit more established talent in there. That's all.
Yeah, it's something that we could see, absolutely right. Before we wrap up with the Yankees and move on to the Mets, we have another caller that wants to get on the air. Caller, who is this and where are you calling from?
Hello?
How's it going? You're on the air.
Hello? Yeah. How's it going? Why are there reports that the Yankees want to get rid of Miller? You can't have the chances going out and carrying the load, because there are times where I really panicked because he was so tired out there. So why would you get rid of one of your guys at the back of the pen? Because I think they single-handedly won you close games.
Yeah, I haven't been a fan of the reports about trading Miller. If unless we get, I know Nick that you wrote that we'll get a huge return for him, but I just don't see the logic behind he was so good last year and now we're going to get rid of him. A great closer is such a valuable asset. Yankees fans are accustomed to having a great closer when we had Mariano Rivera. Now you get a guy like Miller who makes that transition a lot less painless for what it had to be, and now you have talks of getting rid of him. I'm just really not a fan.
They're not actively shopping Miller, which is what I think the key is. They're not going out and saying, "Hey, you want him?" They're fielding calls, and that's the responsible thing to do. I mean, if I am not on the trade Andrew Miller train, especially not after Wilson got traded. Even with the trade of Warren, I still thought it was a decent idea. But after Wilson got traded, now there's just not enough back there right now to do it. If you get more guys, then you can start playing with it again. But here's the thing. Andrew Miller is as elite as they come. He is insanely, ridiculously good. And that's the argument for keeping him, of course, which is entirely valid. But at the same time, Andrew Miller might be how they get that starter with 0 to 3 years of service time. Andrew Miller might be the way they...
What starters are out there that you would want?
I mean, that's the thing. And teams don't actively shop those guys, the young starters with years of control.
Right.
But if somebody comes calling and says, "Hey, I want Andrew Miller," then
they'll be all ears.
And then Brian Cashman says, "Okay, give me this guy, or I will give you Andrew Miller and something else for that guy."
He's negotiating.
I mean that's how this all works. I mean, Brian Cashman's not going around saying, "I have to get rid of Andrew Miller. I'm getting rid of him."
That's not his mentality.
They'd love to have him as long as they feel like they're set, at other positions.
But if you get blown away, if you get a package that is so ridiculously good, you have to pull the trigger, right? I mean, if you get absolutely floored.
So
and the value coming back is so. I mean, look at
propose an offer. Give me a full. I'm Brian Cashman.
I don't know. There's so much out there. I mean, look. I have to look at depth charts and stuff. But look at the Sheldon Miller trade, for instance,
which we'll get to.
The Sheldon Miller trade was insane, absolutely ridiculous. Look at what the Phillies got for Ken Giles. They got they got 3 really good prospects, and a major league ready starter. They got Brett Oberholzer, who's a quality mid back rotation starter. They got Derek Fisher, who's an excellent outfield prospect.
The basketball player.
Yeah. No. They got Thomas Eshelman, who was just drafted this year out of I think it was Virginia. I think got drafted after. He walked 3 or 4 guys his entire time he was in college. That's it.
Wow.
Show something.
And they got another pitcher in the deal too. I forget who it was, but my point is
obviously a team needs to stock up on.
They got all that for Ken Giles. Now Ken Giles is not Andrew Miller because Ken Giles was just a rookie. Andrew Miller is 30-something. He's got another 3 years on his contract, so he's not the same thing. But there is a premium price on good relief pitching now because of the Royals. Everybody saw what the Royals did,
bullpen,
and not just the Royals, but the Pirates bullpen too, the Cardinals bullpen, even the Cubs bullpen the last couple of years with Neil Ramirez, Pedro Strop, and Hector Rondon at the back of the bullpen. And yes, the Yankees bullpen. There is a premium on good relief pitching. Look at what the Red Sox are doing. They went out and got Craig Kimbrell. They got Carson Smith, who is just as good as Ken Giles. They have Junichi Tozawa. They already have Koji Uehara.
Very good.
That bullpen is going to be ridiculously good. And even though they got David Price, that's just one guy, because the other 4 days of the rotation, there has to be somebody backing up the pitchers. Because even with David Price, their rotation is still suspect. So they built up a good bullpen. The Royals, the biggest secret on the Royals, not the biggest secret, but they never had a good rotation in these last 2 years. Their rotation was middling at best.
Yeah, they had guys that kept the game close for a few innings, and then the
And then they
offense
could
would
turn it
score
over-
some runs
left
late,
it
and the
up to the
bullpen
bullpen.
would hold on to it.
And they caught the ball really well, too, so they weren't giving up runs. And all of a sudden, the bullpen comes in and locks it down. So that's the argument for keeping Miller. But at the same time, that's the argument for trading Miller, because you're going to get something really good for him if you
Yeah.
set up the right deal.
I could see it. You're right about them taking the right approach for not actively shopping him, but fielding calls. There's no harm in fielding calls. All right, let's go around the table real quick. Just final thoughts on the Yankees. Where do they go from here? Your impressions on what they've done so far, and then we're gonna take a break and move over to the Mets. Let's start with you, Nick.
I like I said, the getting another starter is key in my mind. You can make room for him. If you have to make room for him, you have to make room for him. You do what you have to do to make room for another starter. But they need another starter. I'm not comfortable rolling into the year with the rotation that's currently constructed. I believe Michael Pineda will give you more innings this year because he'll be another year removed from his shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
I think Tanaka will give you more innings this year.
That'll be
hopefully.
good. Yeah.
He's probably the best pitcher they got.
I mean, and when he's on, Tanaka is excellent.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And so I'm
Even
not
Nova.
I love Nova.
I'm done with Nova.
I love Nova. He's my man.
Nova,
He's good when he wants
I
to
mean,
be.
hopefully, not when he wants to be. He just came off Tommy John surgery. That's why he
True.
was so bad. So hopefully, more time off of Tommy John he'll be better. At the same time, I'm not hankering to keep him around. He was never that great. I am looking forward to Nathan Eovaldi this year.
Ooh,
Nathan
that's
Eovaldi
pretty good.
after the
Everyone
break,
should be excited for him.
after the break, he got really good once he started really using that splitter. And before he went
Such a
down,
good splitter.
before he went down with that forearm strain, he was so good. So I am really looking forward to a full season of that. Severino for a full season is going to be fun. Hopefully, CC Sabathia's magic knee brace helps him more. But
Something for him, please.
I'm probably constructing the roster as if he doesn't exist. Like when the Yankees went into 2015, constructing the roster as if Alex Rodriguez didn't exist, because you just don't know what you're going to get there, and you can't count on it. Not because I don't trust him, just because I don't know if his body's going to hold up.
Exactly.
And if he's healthy and being productive, wonderful. Then that's a good problem to have. But I think this roster is close to being finished, but I would like to see a little bit more.
True. I agree with everything you say about the pitchers, and I'm gonna look like more offensively. I think they pretty much set on what they got. They still
Well, again,
have
you can ask the same
usuals.
question that you don't know where you're going to get from A-Rod, so there's a potential.
Are we gonna get another
hole
surprise
in the
season?
lineup.
I'm not worried about A-Rod.
Yeah,
You think you could just pencil in, close to another season?
I don't know about the exact level that he was
Not
playing
exact,
at.
close.
But
they're still
I'm not.
decent.
I hope so. I mean, I hope I'm
I'm
not
not-
as optimistic, but I hope so.
I'm not concerned about it. But at the same time, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
If something happens, happens. You
He
still have
he is
people to
on
back
the
him up.
roster, so you just run him out there.
Yep.
He's not even playing the field. He's still playing DH.
Right, but what I'm saying is you can't really
Yeah.
move him. So
Oh, you're not
if
going
he's
to
on
move
the
him,
roster,
but,
so
you got to
there's your
account,
DH.
especially a DH. You got to account for who else do they have that could be put in the lineup.
Carlos Beltran.
Right.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there a time where I could have swore I saw a picture of A-Rod practicing first base? Was that true or not?
He was going
I could
to.
see it. Yeah.
At the beginning of last year, the idea was that maybe A-Rod would place him first to give Teixeira some rest.
But now you have
um,
Bird.
Then you
It,
have
on-
Greg Bird
it
now.
only happened once or twice, I think, and they quickly decided it was not a good idea. But the beauty of the Yankees roster, in a way, is that let's say A-Rod gets hurt, then you can move Beltran or Teixeira. You probably move Teixeira onto the DH role, bring Bird back up to play first base. Let's say you want to move Beltran there, then you can bring Judge up if you want.
I'd like to
so
see Judge at some point.
It's a lot of opportunities.
I mean, one of Beltran, Teixeira, and A-Rod will be hurt at some point,
Yeah.
possibly at the same time. But you can move them in and out of the DH spot when they're hurt and bring up the kids from AAA. So it works.
So they do have that backup
I mean,
from AAA.
they do have depth down there. I
Yeah,
mean,
they
Ben
do.
Gamble also is a good outfielder down there. He's probably not going to get a whole lot of time up this year because they brought in Hicks. Gamble is a speedy, slap-hitting, really fast outfielder down there. But Aaron Hicks is now the backup guy, who's like kind of Chris Young plus. I mean, I like their depth. I just like to see more pitching. That's all.
Yeah, You guys make good points. I agree with what you guys said. They've been trying to add. I feel like for years now it's been a broken record that the Yankees need more starters. The Yankees need more starters. So hopefully now is where they finally capitalize on it and realize that they have a good thing going forward. They add the pitching. They add pitching in front of the young defense that they're going to have with Gregorius, Castro, obviously the move that I like. We talked about that at the very beginning. The bullpen I'm not as concerned about. I like Girardi obviously as the guy to push all the buttons on a team that's very flexible. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the season. I'm always excited for the Yankees season, no matter how bleak or how great it's going to look going into it. But I definitely think some reason for optimism and some reason to be excited for this Yankee team. They're not done yet, most likely, and they have a lot of pieces to look forward to, a lot of players that we're going to get to watch grow, which is always exciting, and we look forward to a new season for them. All right, so we'll move on to the Mets next. Of course, they were busy as well, the reigning National League champions, if you can still believe that, but they have some work to do, obviously, and they made some moves to try to get back to the World Series next season. We're going to talk about what they did and what to expect from them coming up after this.
Here at WMSC, we are celebrating the life of Baseball Hall of Famer and Yankee legend Yogi Berra. All of us here at WMSC are saddened by the loss and want to celebrate the gift he's left with us, his fun and quirky quotes. We call them Yogiisms.
Baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical.
If you come to a fork in the road, take it.
A nickel ain't worth a dime anymore.
If the world was perfect, it wouldn't be.
You should always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't come to yours.
I didn't really say everything I said.
The future ain't what it used to be.
If the people don't want to come out to the ballpark, nobody's going to stop them.
You've got to be very careful if you don't know where you're going, because you might not get there.
It ain't over till it's over.
Alright, for the last time this semester, you are listening to Upon Further Review right here on 90.3 FM WMSC in Upper Montclair, New Jersey, streaming online at WMSCradio.com. And like I said, it's been a great semester of the show, and we have still a lot of time to go after our last show, which is another great one planned for you to go out with a bang. Saul Martin here with you with Mario Papa and Nick Stellini to kick things off as we talked about the Yankees and some other things around baseball. So let's move in, guys, to the moves and the deals that the New York Mets have made these past couple of days. And let's start with acquiring Neil Walker from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They give up John Neese, a guy that Mets fans are not going to be, remiss to see go because they were calling for him being gone pretty much the whole season. And now he's finally gone. They bring in a guy like Walker, who I think will be very productive for them. A nice bat in that lineup, just a solid player that should be able to fill in and play right away and do good things for them and get things started for them in their off season.
Yeah, I love the moves. I love Walker. I love bringing Cabrera. This is very, very good. I love this infield now. They were in the hunt for Zobrist. They apparently had the more lucrative offer for Zobrist. He chose Chicago. And what you gonna do? They tried.
Joe Maddon has to be just thrilled to be back with Ben Zobrist.
Zobrist is great, but in a way, this is a little bit better. I don't think that's going to exceed Zobrist's total production for the year, but at the same time, they're not locked into a contract for a guy who's going to be 35. They only have Walker for a year before he hits free agency unless they extend him, and if they don't, he's a good enough player they can hang a qualifying offer on him and get a draft pick when he signs elsewhere.
And this move clearly means that Murphy is going to go elsewhere. Right?
Oh, yeah, no question. Murphy's gone. And I like Neil Walker better than I like Daniel Murphy, to be honest. They're about the same level of hitter. Walker's got a little bit more power, but he's a better fielder. That is the problem with Daniel Murphy, is that he is an adventure in the field at best, as we all saw at the end of the World Series. So Walker is not going to blow the doors off the place, but he's going to get the job done. He's a good, solid player. I like him for the Mets.
Right.
The same for Cabrera. I mean, he's a decent, not great fielder at shortstop, but that's better than Wilmer Flores. He's probably about the same level, or maybe a little bit better than Wilmer Flores with the bat. So I like what they're doing here. And he's there for 2 years. There's an option for a third.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that option gets exercised, but we'll see how he plays. Cabrera can also move around the infield a little bit. Walker can play third if David Wright gets hurt. Flores can play third if Walker gets hurt. Even Cabrera could play second or third if he has to. So they have options if Wright's back acts up. Wilmer Flores moves to the bench, and I like that bat off the bench. I really do. Like I said, he can back up right at third base. He can play second base. He can even play shortstop if he has to. So I really like what the Mets are doing here.
Yeah, I think Mets fans will be impressed with the defense from Cabrera. I think, it'll be, I don't want to say a pleasant surprise because it's not like he was completely hidden when he was with the Indians. He made some highlight-type plays, and I'm sure a decent amount of fans know about him. But they'll be impressed with his glove out there. I know the Mets fans have sat through a lot of infields that weren't pretty to watch, including, at times on the biggest stage in the World Series, Daniel Murphy, just a few months ago. So now you get a guy like Cabrera who's going to help out defensively. Walker, a solid player, and you're right. I think they're two good moves.
Yeah, I mean, Cabrera's not an all-world defender by any means, and he's probably average or so at shortstop, but that gets the job done. That really is, and he's an above-average bat for the position too. So they'll get some value there. I really like these moves. I think it's a good, solid infield, especially with a healthy David Wright and Lucas Duda. That is a great all-around value infield. I love it.
Yeah. Do you think they have the potential with this to World Series material? Do you think
no?
Do you think they have the best infield in the NL East?
No. In the NL East, probably not. No.
Maybe.
It depends on what the Nationals do, because they have Trey Turner, who's going to be good. He's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be good this year, but he's going to be really good. They have Anthony Rendon, obviously.
Yeah.
They have Ryan Zimmerman playing first. I don't know what they're going to do at second base just yet, because they traded Nuno Escobar.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right.
So it depends on what they do there. But that being said, that could be the best infield if Turner hits his stride right out of the gate. I mean, the Marlins are also, they have a decent infield too.
They do. Yep.
It's not great,
Bunch of young
but
guys.
D. Gordon got really good. Hechavarria figured out how to play defense, which is an improvement. I'm not wild about the infield there, but I mean, it's okay. But it's between the Mets or the Nationals. In terms of just going all the way back to the World Series, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it depends on how they replace Cespedes.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're out of the hunt for an outfield bat by any stretch of the imagination.
They shouldn't be, at least.
They should not.
But they recouped some. They brought back some of that value with this move, because their infield was not good. I mean, Murphy was good but not great. Bad glove. Flores and Tejada at short was just a mess. So they brought back a little bit of value there. I don't think they have to go out and get Cespedes to be good again, because if you think about it, even as constructed, the roster's constructed right now, the lineup is deep.
It is.
I mean, Lagares is probably the only easy out in the lineup right now, and that's if he doesn't bring his bat back up like from where he was.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, you could probably go out and get Denard Span and platoon him with Lagares, and I'll be happy because you have.
That's a good name now. I think Span could be a nice fit with the Mets.
I mean, because you have power out there. You've got Granderson, you've got Conforto, you've got
might have
Duda.
Cespedes.
I mean, even without Cespedes, you got Conforto, Granderson, and Duda.
That sounds pretty good to
with
me.
Power. Walker is going to hit you 12 or so. Cabrera might hit you 10. I mean, we'll see what we get from David Wright. Darno is a good bat when he's healthy. I mean, there's no easy outs there except for Lagares, and even then, I wouldn't be surprised if his bat stepped back up. Yeah. They could go out and get a bigger bat. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I think a lot of Mets fans would be shocked. I wouldn't. I'm not expecting it either, but I mean, I like the Mets, and they have the pitching. God knows they have the pitching. They've got Harvey, DeGrom, Syndergaard, Matz. They might bring back Bartolo to pitch the fifth spot until Zach Wheeler gets healthy. Then Bartolo goes to the bullpen. And there's more to come too. So I mean, this is a good team. They got the World Series for a reason.
It's just a matter of if everyone stays healthy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
If they don't get into a slump, it's just a matter of making sure everyone is playing to their best and they're healthy too. Because if they get the injuries, then they're gonna have to switch everything around. Maybe call people up from AAA if it's that bad.
And their AAA squad shouldn't be that bad. I mean, Brandon Nimmo. I would be surprised if he was ready by the middle of the year.
Yeah, I've heard good things about
Matt
him.
Reynolds can come up and back up in the infield if people get hurt. So I mean, this is a good team. I mean, I really do like this. I would like to see more in the bullpen, because it's just Familia and then Addison Reed and I actually like Hansel Robles though. I do like Hansel Robles. Gil Martin's not bad, but there needs to be at least one more impact arm out there. I like the Mets. I really do.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you this question, Nick, and just give a quick answer on this. Is there a concern now for the Pirates with this move? Because you look at this on paper and say,
not at all.
For me, it was a bit of a head scratcher for Pittsburgh.
Here's why. Even without Neil Walker, they now get to put Jung Ho Gung, Josh Harrison, and Jordy Mercer as their infield, and they got to find someone to play first base because they haven't had a first baseman in a long time. Alvarez, they cut, but I'm not even worried about first base right now. They'll find somebody to stick at first base. But they can put Mercer at short, Jung Ho Gung at third, Josh Harrison at second base, and that's a good infield. And they also have a prospect by the name of Alan Hansen coming up pretty soon. Alan Hansen's going to be good. And they have a lot of infield depth down there, actually. And Josh Bell, who's a big-time prospect, should be able to play first base maybe around May or June or so. So they just need somebody to hold down the fort until Bell gets there, and they also can see if he can stick in the major leagues in his first try. But I like Josh Bell. Josh Bell's going to be a good hitter. He's going to be a real good hitter. So they felt comfortable moving Walker because they have Jung Ho Gung and Jordy Mercer to play shortstop, and Josh Harrison can play all over the infield. So they had the depth to make the move. And now they get John Neese, who all things considered, is actually a decent pitcher. And Ray Series, the pitching coach in Pittsburgh, has a way of getting good guys to be great guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so this is, I actually kind of wanted the Yankees to go after Walker on the start of the winter because I thought Walker would be available.
That could work.
Could have worked. I could really picture it.
It would have been a bit it's not as good as Castro because you only had him for a year. Castro's going to be there for a while and he's younger, so this is probably the better move. But Walker was one of the guys I wanted.
Yeah.
And if Walker gets hurt, or whatever, if somebody gets hurt, you get Dilson Herrera, who's going to be the second baseman.
He's good.
Dilson Herrera. This gives Herrera more time to develop, and I think he could cut it right now and be at least a halfway decent major leaguer right now. So this gives Herrera a bit more time. So this is a good move for both sides, I think.
True.
Yeah, well, there's your answer for the Pirates. We'll come back after this break on Upon Further Review and talk about two moves involving the Arizona Diamondbacks, two headline moves. I think you all know what I'm referring to there. 973-655-4256 is a number to call. So Martin, Mario Papa, and Nick Stellini here with you in studio for the first hour of the show. We're going to get into football at about 5:30 with Jess Haney from InsideTheStar.com, and then a lot of things to do after that as well, up until 7 right here on WMSCRadio.com. Welcome back here to Upon Further Review on WMSC in Upper Montclair, New Jersey, online at WMSCRadio.com. We're talking a little bit more about doing some baseball moves here. We went through the Yankees and the Mets, spent a lot of time with the Yankees, and reasonably so, as they have a lot of moves that had to be broken down, a lot of things still to come for this for this next season Yankees team. The Mets obviously trying to stay relevant as the defending National League champions. They made some moves that we talked about and what they need to do going forward. We got to that. So let's get to just in other MLB news, and you got to talk about the two moves that the Diamondbacks made because they're both headline moves. Let's start with Zach Greinke. They signed him to a 6-year, $206.5 million contract. That's a lot of money, Nick.
Yes, it is. It is a lot of money, and it was the right move for them. It really was. About $60 million or so of that money is going to be deferred, so they're not going to be paying it over the life of the contract. They'll be paying it after he's gone, kind of like the Max Scherzer deal. But that being said, the Diamondbacks were the second best defensive team in baseball last year. They scored the second most runs in the National League behind the Rockies, who played in Coors Field.
So they need pitching.
So they needed pitching, yeah. And they went out and got some pitching. I love the Greinke deal. I think it's a smart thing to do. Not only does it add a really good starter to your rotation, but also takes a start away from the Giants and the Dodgers because the Giants were in on him.
Absolutely.
And the Dodgers no longer have Zach Greinke.
And it gives them star power, too, which is something I feel like this team needs. I feel like...
they have Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, but nobody really talks... Outside of Goldschmidt, nobody really talks a ton about Arizona.
Paul Goldschmidt is my favorite paper that nobody talks about because everybody talks about nobody talking about him.
Well, that's true. But, to me, especially as someone that focuses mainly on the Yankees, and then
no, I understood.
Arizona just kind of feels like the team is just kind of there, and they're never doing much. But now people will tune in to watch the Diamondbacks.
Yeah. So I love the Greinke deal for them. That's great stuff. My problem is the Sheldon Miller trade. That was a horrendous, awful, terrible, wonderfully bad trade.
So they acquired Shelby Miller from the Braves. They gave up the number one overall pick in Dansby Swanson. And then two prospects who, again, you have to fill me in on because I heard they're good, but I don't know anything about them.
Okay, so the Sheldon Miller deal. So Sheldon Miller is a good pitcher. He's a good pitcher. He's not a great pitcher.
Good,
he's a
not
good
great.
pitcher.
Yep.
He's all right.
He had a good 2015 season. He had a really good 2015 season. He had a horrendous 2014 season. He was good in 2013 when he came up.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had 2014 Sheldon Miller. We have 2015 Sheldon Miller. We're wondering who's going to show up in 2016.
So they're praying for 2015.
So the metrics were kind to 2015 Sheldon Miller, but so the Diamondbacks are banking on that guy showing up. As I mentioned earlier, Atlanta is the pitcher's park.
Indeed, it is.
Arizona is not.
No.
Arizona is a hitter's park. So I wouldn't be totally shocked if Sheldon Miller regresses back to being bad and gets hit around a lot in Arizona, but that's not a guarantee. The guys they gave up in this trade, as you mentioned, Dansby Swanson, the top overall pick. Dansby Swanson is
so there's
a
the
really good
Braves
prospect
replacement for Simmons.
I mean, yeah. So that they have Dansby Swanson, they have Ozzie Libas too as a good infield prospect that could also play shortstop. So theoretically, you could have Ozzie Libas and Dansby Swanson in the middle of the infield for years to come. That's going to be good.
I mean, the Braves have been stockpiling on young pitchers. Now it's time to start.
They got a bat.
Yeah, now it's time to start building your position players, and not a bad place to start with a number 1 overall pick guy.
Oh yeah.
But here's the thing. They also traded Aaron Blair, who is a good pitching prospect who could have been up very quickly this year. He's going to be a good middle, even maybe a 2. So they gave up Dansby Swanson, who they drafted first overall. And by the way, Atlanta now has 3 of the last 4 first round picks that Arizona has taken. They have Dansby Swanson.
Oh, wow.
They basically sold Tuki Toussaint to them for $10 million. And now they also have Aaron Blair, who is a compensation round pick. They don't have Braden Shipley yet, but we'll see. And Ender Inciarte also went in the deal, who is a big league outfielder. He's a good big league outfielder. He defends very well. He hits decently well, and he's going to be in there because they have a lot of years of control on him. So this is a massive overpay because Shelby Miller's only going to be there for 3 years. I mean, they can extend him, but as of right now, you get 3 years of Shelby Miller.
And it's a relatively small window for a team that, even with Greinke, might not be that top contender in 3 years.
Yeah, and they lost a pick in the Greinke deal. So, yeah, I mean it's a massive overpay. I mean, I am a lot lower on Shelby Miller than most people. I mean, I think he's good, but I mean, this is nuts.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Miller will help them to an extent, but not for what they gave up. And for a 3-year window is not ideal. So, they definitely gave up a lot. Like I said, I don't know a ton about prospects when I hear their name, but if you have a zillion sources on Twitter telling you that these guys are really, really good, I'm bound to believe some of them, especially, hearing it from you now as well, that these guys will be good, and especially pitching prospects that are regarded highly turn out pretty well for the most part. So
not always.
Not always, but to get Shelby Miller in return is not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of deal I would want a lot more than Shelby Miller for this deal. That's for sure.
Makes sense. Yeah, so, there's a lot going on in baseball finally, if it seems. Like I was telling you guys when we were waiting outside the studio when Sam and Francesca there were on air for their last show of the semester. Actually, I think Fran is doing one more. Sam won't be in. Anyway, well, when I was talking to you guys before, I said, the past few weeks for the shows, baseball, when we had the David Price deal, we spent maybe 20 minutes on it. And then other weeks was maybe just a few minutes here and there. Finally, more than enough baseball news to get an hour plus in, which definitely feels good to be back talking about baseball. It's a fun sport to break down. Definitely some fun deals to break down, which we just did for you. And there'll still be plenty of time for football on the show as well, of course. So don't, tune out for that. We do have football coming up with all the usual stuff that we always do. I give my 5 surprising teams from last week. We both give our NFL picks. We give our records from last week.
Wait.
And then we talk about all kinds of other things. And, yeah.
1 second, Sean. We're giving picks even though we're not gonna like count who win.
Yeah.
I'll still give them picks.
Yeah,
but we're
we'll
not gonna
picks.
track them.
Always picks every week.
I'm gonna say the Browns lose.
That was a harder game to pick, though, because they're playing the 49ers, who just won in Chicago,
Yeah,
so that game's a mess. But I actually did pick the Niners to spoil one pick there. I don't really care about spoiling that one pick because it's an irrelevant pick that we're probably only going to spend about 2 seconds on. But we're about a half hour away now as we hit the top of the 5 o'clock hour here on WMSC Upper Montclair from being joined by Jess Haney from InsideTheStar.com. So we'll do football with him, of course, Cowboys, Packers, NFC East stuff.
Wild NFC East. It's very tightly packed NFC East.
Terrible NFC East. So to kind of wrap up our discussion on baseball, the floor is open. Is there anything else that, what else are we watching for this offseason? What else do you expect to see? What should we keep our eye on? What are you hoping to see? What's the deal with, or what are you looking forward to most?
Well, now that Hayward signed, the outfielders should start moving a little bit. So you're going to see Justin Upton and Cespedes and Alex Gordon. Their market's going to start developing now because Hayward's out. There's also Johnny Cueto still on the market. He's probably going to wait a little bit longer just to see what's going on. But I would expect him to sign decently soon, not within the next 24 hours or anything. But keep an eye on Johnny Cueto. Also, the Jose Fernandez thing.
The Yankees were apparently in on that.
The Marlins are asking the world for Jose Fernandez. We'll see.
Which they should.
Yes. But we'll see if the price comes down a little bit. If somebody winds up with Jose Fernandez, the Dodgers have a little bit of incentive to overpay for him now. So we'll see what happens there. But all in all, that's what I got.
All right, Mario, anything that you're keeping an eye on or hoping to see, or your final thoughts on the MLB?
Well, I am hoping to see the Yankees making a mover somewhere because they still need maybe another pitcher, another starter will do them good, hopefully. But they always have what they got in AAA. But I'm not really expecting anything like a big name because it seems like all the humongous, most well-known names are gone already. Like everyone was so hype about David Price. He's gone to Boston. Good luck with that. And I'm not really expecting anything big, but I'm still going to follow it.
It doesn't have to be big, but definitely some guys that can contribute are going to be starting to add to all these teams from around the league. The outfielders falling into place, like Nick said, so it's an exciting time.
Indeed it is.
All right, with that, we're going to take another break. Coming back on the other end of the break, we'll go into our Week 13 surprise NFL teams. So, Nick, you can feel free to stick around or head out if you want.
Yeah, I got to head out. But if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at Stellini Tweets, Stellini Tweets.
Follow me. It's good tweets.
I write at Beyond the Box Score, which is the analytics division of SB Nation, and at BP Bronx, which is the Yankee site for Baseball Prospectus. Thank you to BP for promoting this appearance. Hi to everybody listening. So yeah, follow me at Stellini Tweets, Stellini Tweets, and we'll see you around.
Well, there you go, Nick. Thanks for joining us. We get into football next on the show. Upon further review, the last one of the semester, our last round of picks, all that good stuff coming up. A lot to do. Excited for all that we have ahead. With your number to call being 973-655-4256, and we'll be right back.